Web Marketing That Works podcast, episode number 7.
Welcome to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. Come behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments and listen in as amazing guests confess the truth about what really works. Now, here are your hosts, Adam Franklin and Toby Jenkins.
Hey there, it's Adam Franklin from the Web Marketing That Works podcast. Joined, as always, by my co-host, Toby Jenkins. How are you, Toby?
Good, thanks, Ads. Hi, everyone.
This is the show for people like you and like us who love marketing on the web. You will be taken behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments where we look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll confess what's failed and reveal the truth about what really works.
This show is brought to you by our new book, Web Marketing That Works, and specifically the bonus templates that go with it. So if you're keen to download the bonus 33 free templates, please jump over to bluewiremedia.com.au/book.
And of course, the book comes out on May the 1st. So if you want to check it out, please head over to our website at that same web address that Toby said, bluewiremedia.com.au/book, and all the details of where to buy it will be there. We want to give a very big shout out to the people that left us a 5-star review. A very big thank you to Trent John, Sharon Barber, Trevino Chatsworth, and Ben Love. Your support is very much appreciated, and it has helped us stay on the new and noteworthy, and also as one of the top business podcasts.
Yeah, thanks very much, everyone.
All right, so today's show, we will be looking at, I guess, the early story behind Toby and myself and Bluewire and our marketing journey right from the early days, because, you know, we've been in business now 9.5 years. And we've learned a hell of a lot in that time, but what a lot of listeners won't know is that Toby and I have actually been very good friends since 1986. And 1986 was when we met each other in grade 1 at Ashgrove State School. And amazingly, we've been mates ever since, so coming up to nearly 30 years there.
Yeah, that's a bit humbling, Ads.
It's a long time.
Yeah, primary school, high school, university, I guess swimming, water polo. We've travelled a heap together as well, which has been a heap of fun. And now 9.5 years in business and a book. And mates, yeah, very pleased to have had you along for that journey the whole time as well. It's been awesome fun.
Yeah, and as of last week, a podcast as well.
Yeah.
And one of the things we want to do with this podcast is to share the highs and the lows and the experiences and everything that we've learned along the way, so that other people can learn from our mistakes and learn from the things that have gone right as well.
Yeah, I think there's certainly been plenty of mistakes over the years and lots of things to be excited by. So, you know, it's been cool to kick off the podcast as a way of documenting that journey, I guess, and also as a fantastic way to meet some of those awesome guests that we've already had and plenty more lined up, Ads.
Absolutely. Now, you'll also hear throughout these stories on our podcast about Bluewire Media, which is the company that we started in 2005. But because we're talking about stories from the past and stories from the present, many listeners may be wondering what it actually is that we do now and what that journey has been along the way. So just to clarify, we started in 2005 as a web design and hosting business. From there, we evolved into providing more the web strategy consulting services, because we realized that a website on its own was good, but what you really needed was the planning and the smarts to understand what your website needed to accomplish from a marketing and business point of view. And then once the website was built, you needed to be keeping it up to date and publishing content on there. So we evolved into a web strategy firm. And in recent years, we have called ourselves a web marketing consulting firm. And some of the things that we have done and that we talk about in the show is things like social media management, web design, email marketing. But these days, we don't do any of the actual implementation for clients. we're purely an advisory firm so that we provide the framework and the training and then work with clients, agencies, and in-house marketing teams to develop their web marketing asset.
Yeah, I think one of the elements of that ads as well is that, it's not a competition between us and the web designers and agencies and what have you, that we really fit in to that mix as an advisor, just to sort of clarify that a little bit further as well.
Totally. And when we started, it was before Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and all these other social media platforms. So it's been quite an adventure for us too, seeing all these platforms explode onto the scene and learn how to use them and learn how to teach them to clients as we've progressed over the years. But to really rewind the clock, Tobes, would you like to start off and sort of share our very early business journey, I guess, from the day we registered the company?
Yeah, so we started in the summer of 2005, so it was January 2005, and I think it may have even been the 7th of January ads.
Correct.
There wasn't too many dollars to our names at that point. We were non-technical. We'd hashed out a few different business plans. There was the Bungie trampoline.
Yep.
That we rejected. There was clean skin wines to be labelled as corporate gifts. There was promotional products, and then websites were the fourth. They were our four options.
And remember, maybe importing some suits from Bali was another one that was on the chalkboard for a very short amount of time.
Indeed. Really colourful suits.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, it was. Then we made the decision that the web wasn't going away. And fortunately, that's definitely been the case. And we decided it was also, I guess, web design was the business that wasn't going to cost us anything to get started. So non-techies trying to do web design was going to be an interesting journey, but we were very keen to learn and very keen to learn business as well and marketing in that respect.
Yeah, so starting off, we were lucky enough to have, originally for our very first project, we had a third business partner called Tom, who's a very good friend of ours, and he actually helped us get the technical side of things taken care of. But he decided to leave the business in the early few months, and that presented an opportunity for Toby and I to stick at it, but also we realised we could then hire in the technical skills, and we remained focused and passionate about running a business and also learning how to market a business. And one of our mentors in the early days and still to this day, a guy called Michael Hagan from Mini Movers, who I'm sure we'll get on the show at some stage, he told us that you don't necessarily need to have the technical skills in a business. If you want to be an entrepreneur or a business owner, you need to learn how to sell your product, market your product, and then work out how to get that work implemented by your team. So remember when we went into Smart License in Spring Hill in Brisbane and we registered the business name, we were always about celebrating milestones in our lives. So take us through what happened next, Tobe.
Yeah, well, next up was a week-long surf trip. And that was, we figured we were business owners. We had a name, we had an ABN, a business number, and we were away. So we thought, oh, well, business owners can control their own time. So let's go surfing for a week. And we took off down past Sydney from Brisbane and had an awesome time. And that was week one of business. The next week was a little different though, we got underway.
Yeah, when we got back, we realised, well, we really actually need to get some clients, didn't we? We had mentors from the early days, as I've already mentioned, but they sort of said, if you're in business, you're not really in business until you've got customers who are paying you money. Everything else is just show. You need sales and you need customers to get those sales. And so we were off on the first few steps of a very brutal learning curve because we had to go out and find our first customer. And it wasn't easy because, as Toby said, we were non-technical business owners. We were selling websites. We didn't have the technical skills to build one ourselves, and we didn't have a website or any other marketing collateral except for a logo that Toby's brother kindly designed for us and an email address. And so we started with $120. That bought us the domain name and set up the email address and the hosting for the year. And then we started pounding the pavements looking for our first customers. And it was actually quite a learning curve, because we took our clipboards and we took ourselves around Ashgrove and Wilston and all these other suburbs in Brisbane, literally knocking on doors, walking on in and asking the business owner or the manager there whether or not they needed a website. And we did this day in, day out. And I remember at the start, I was going from the script that we'd written, and it read something like this. Hi, my name's Adam. This is Toby. We're wondering whether you're interested in a website for your business. And we did this, or I was leading the charge, doing that first bit of the script for all these shops. And then we decided to take it in turns, and Tobes had a go. And it was very, very funny, because we walked into the next shop and Toby led the script, and he led in and said, hi, my name's Adam and this is Toby, completely jumbling our names up. And we thought, oh my God, it's either laugh or cry. So we laughed and we left the shop, obviously without a sale. And we thought, geez, there's just got to be a better way, because those first, few weeks of pounding the pavement yielded us 0 leads.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal. And I mean, I remember it, peak of summer in Brisbane, pretty hot, and we were rolling around in these fake polo shirts as well, I'm pretty sure, that I'd brought back from a water polo trip to China. And it was just a really interesting lesson in how not to win business, really. Completely cold, no idea who they were other than the fact that we lived in the area. And it was a real eye-opener for us, I think. But, a great way of testing your courage is walking into a shop and seeing if they want to do business with you. So I think from there, as we moved on to that sort of the second phase, which was, again, cold, but we moved on to cold calling, which was a massive step up, because it meant at least we were out of the sun. We were in the shade on your parents' back deck, or, at my parents' place. And we were back on, we'd written out the scripts again. We were cold calling leads straight out of the yellow pages. And that was all well and good. And we were trying to book appointments, really, at that stage, to say, hey, look, can we come and meet with you to talk about a new website? And then we realised that wasn't getting us a lot of traction either. So what we then chose to do was, okay, well, who would have some money to actually spend? Because we were talking to all these really small businesses who might have some money. So we found the Brisbane News, which was a bit of a glossy publication in Brisbane. And in that magazine, there were lots of businesses advertising. And based on that, we figured, oh, well, if they've got money to spend on the Brisbane News, then surely they've got money to spend, and they need to spend on a website. And if their ad didn't have a website in it, then we were going to be the first, hopefully, we were hoping to be the first people to call them up and say, hey, look, you need a website. So that was all well and good until, the stuffing came out of that one as well. When ads, I think you were calling a client and... I was midway through my script, the cold calling script, and the lady said, where are you calling from? And I was wondering what she meant by this. And I said, Ashgrove. And she says, oh, no, what company? I said, Bluewire Media. She said, I said, but okay, why are you asking where I'm calling from? And she said, I can hear crows in the background. And we were actually sitting on my parents' balcony at the time. And, of course, there were all these birds in the background. And I'm sure it sounded completely unprofessional. And that was, again, one of those turning points or breaking points where we thought, oh, no, we've just got to improve what we're doing here. And from then we went to Toby's place because it was nice and quiet and indoors to do the cold calling. And then the alternate weeks we would do stuff from mum and dad's deck. But again, more lessons in what not to do with your marketing. Oh, yeah. That was one of the good ones. and then the cold calling fortunately progressed where we included one of our design mates along, and he was keen to get his portfolio out there, and so he was prepared to do mock-ups for us. And so the actual cold calling, we were able to book some appointments by offering a design mock-up of what their website might look like. because our mate was prepared to do those on spec, and that made a huge difference to the uptake as well.
And it taught us a lesson, didn't it? If you can lead with generosity and provide something of value for free, then it really gets that relation. It opens the door for the relationship and gets it off on the right foot. But it got us some leads, but it didn't even land us our first client. Our first client was from a completely unexpected channel, wasn't it?
Yeah. So our friend Lance he was just at the pub having a chat with a guy at the bar, and we'd told him about the fact that we'd kicked off this web design business. The guy at the bar had actually said to him, "Well, look, I need a website for my business." It was a garage door business, and so he said, and Lance was able to then say, "Oh, look, I know these guys who are doing websites. Do you want me to put you in touch?" And so we did, and that landed our first ever client, first ever paying client. I guess that's the only client that counts. And our first check for $247 on a deposit for a website.
It's amazing, hey, because Lance was our water polo coach from our club, and he'd known us, for most of our adult life anyway. And it was really interesting that he'd been paying attention. He knew that we had a web design business, and then he connected us up with his mate from the pub. And one of the lessons that we learnt from that is, the value of our network and the value of community. And it was so nice that led to our first customer, because we were pretty fed up of pounding the pavement in the hot sun. That was no good. Then we did literally a month of these cold calls and slightly warmer calls, but, offering something of value that led to these meetings. But to get our first client through our existing network really drove home the fact that, let's nurture this community and let's deliver value. Let's let people know what we're doing, because if that's what's going to lead to our clients, let's just do more of what actually works, because we certainly didn't want to be doing more cold calls. That said, we did continue doing the cold calls. Once we got our first client, it was a lot easier to then go to a prospective customer and say, look, here's a mock-up that we can do for you. Here's an example of a website that we've built. We were getting more and more credibility as we grew. I think even by that stage, we'd built our own website, which was a coup.
Yeah.
Lent us a lot more credibility, and it kind of just built up from there, from that very first check. I think the first website we sold was $1,200, and that check was a 20% deposit or thereabouts for that first website. But it took 6 weeks to get that first sale and that first check, so it was by no means easy. But I remember thinking at the time, if we can get someone to write us a check, then surely that's got to be the hardest piece of work that we do, and it's going to get easier and easier from here, which it did, which it certainly did.
It definitely did. The other thing about that scenario too, Ads, was the fact that, Lance's friend really helped us understand that having a referral also made it a lot easier to actually close the sale, because in that particular instance, I remember it being virtually a no-brainer, in that the guy said, yes, I want to go with you guys. Let's just figure out how it's going to work, as opposed to, if you guys submit a quote, I'll get 3 other quotes, and then, I'll come back to you if that's the way we want to go. It was such a different conversation to what we were even trying to get to with other people, and what we've had even subsequently is that, referred businesses are the ones that have that inherent trust, I guess, of you as a provider, of of us as the provider in that particular scenario.
Totally, yeah. A lot of trust is conveyed through a referral, and I also think subsequently, if people have heard of you or have seen you or have interacted with some of your free content, then there's this sense that yes, they do trust you enough to sort of start the conversation, to forge or to form a commercial relationship. So what people know about you before you actually meet face to face, we've discovered just has such a huge impact on the sale, on the relationship, and everything else that goes with it. Tobes, one question I'm often asked is, we started business 10 years ago, but technology has changed a lot in those 10 years, particularly with social media and everything else. the question I'm asked is, knowing what we know with our decade of experience and this new technology, how would we start marketing a business if we were starting today? How would you approach that?
Okay, so I'm kind of assuming that we have product and some experience in a portfolio and something that actually works and all that kind of stuff in my answer. And in which case, my process would really, without wanting to blow our own trumpet, but would really follow the way we laid out Web Marketing That Works, the book, in that I'd say, okay, well, with this business, who are our ideal clients? Who are our target audience? How are we going to get to them? And then I would look at crafting a flagship piece of content, something that was so valuable to that particular audience that they would want to download it and engage and connect with us. And then from there, craft the flagship piece of content, then create a landing page. So then in exchange for that download, they can give an email address. And therefore, we've got the opportunity to build a relationship with that particular person. And then from there, I think getting sort of blogging and sharing our own content and our own thoughts and expertise around the particular product or service in getting that information into other networks that are going to be interested, I think would be the way that I would kick off, knowing what we know today and given the technology and everything that's available, because there are so many networks out there that already have our target audience. So how do I get in front of those audiences? And online and the internet means that content is just such a valuable tool to get there and in front of audiences. How do you reckon you'd do it?
Yeah, if I could just build on that answer too, I certainly think once you have an understanding of who your buyer persona or your ideal customer is, understanding what problem it is that you solve for them, creating that piece of flagship content that helps them in some way. And in our personal experience, it's been by creating templates, marketing templates that people can actually use. But understanding the problem, creating a template, doing some keyword research to understand what these buyers are actually searching for on Google when they have this problem that you solve, and ideally then having that piece of flagship content on that landing page that you speak about and optimizing that page so that it appears on the Google results. And if you're keen to understand more about SEO, we can go back to episode 5 of the podcast where we talk about what works with SEO. Or you can check out the SEO planning template, which is a free tool on our website. But the thing to note is if you're not on that first page of Google for that flagship piece of content that you've released, the key to getting it on the first page of Google is to do off-site content, or most commonly guest blogging, where you can then link back to that landing page so that not only are you driving traffic from that external blog to your landing page, but you're also giving the signal to Google through that backlink that you're an authoritative page, and the more backlinks you can get, the more chance that you've got of eventually appearing on that first page of Google. Now, you did make a good point, Toby, of the fact that assuming you've got a product and something that works, if we were to backtrack from there and we were literally starting out with very little understanding of what we're offering, I still think the hustle of actually going out, cold calling, knocking on doors is certainly the way to land your first client or two. And I think once you've got that first client or even a second client, then that should be enough credibility and example of what you can do that you can then work more on your online presence and use that first client as a stepping stone to get your second and third and fourth, and continuing on from there. But as you do grow that list, as you get more people to that landing page and you're growing your email list and you're growing your audience, that's a huge opportunity to actually be open to pivoting your business. And that's a phrase quite common in startup vernacular that means changing your product and service offering to actually fit in with what your actual subscribers and what your audience wants. It's a lot easier to build a product for an existing audience than it is to build a product first and then try and find an audience that wants it. So my advice would be always be looking to grow your audience, whether it's through social media or through blog subscribers, but ideally through email subscribers, because then you've got that luxury of being able to build products that most suit their more pressing problems.
Yeah, I think I'd have a little tweak on that as well, Ads, in that if you literally have nothing, if you don't have an audience and you don't have a list and you don't have a product and you don't have a service, if you're starting from scratch, right at the very basics, then chances are, you've had a career or you've had interests that an audience and and understand a particular passion of yours or what have you. And I think one of the ways of looking at it is to try to identify where the problems are within the community that you already associate in, even if you don't necessarily control that community. So what are the problems and where could you potentially fit into that? And I think that is sort of where you can use things like forums and social media where people are asking questions, and how can you sort of answer those questions and understand what the problems are of a given community, so then you can reverse engineer a product that people actually want already, as opposed to having to guess initially and then pivot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yep, solving an existing problem seems to come down to that, doesn't it? Solve a problem that you either have yourself or that people within your community have, as opposed to guessing, building a product and then hoping that people will buy it.
Yep, absolutely.
So that wraps up the 7th episode of the Web Marketing That Works podcast. Thanks for joining us. I hope you have been able to learn from some of Toby and my mistakes over the last 9.5 years and put them into practice yourself.
This show is brought to you by Web Marketing That Works, the book, and specifically the 33 bonus templates that go with it. So please jump over to our website, bluewiremedia.com.au/book. We're hoping to deliver actionable advice every time with these podcasts. So if you have any feedback or questions, they are more than welcome. And please let us know on email or Twitter. My email address is toby.jenkins@bluewiremedia.com.au or at Toby_Jenkins on Twitter. Ads?
Okay, my email is adam.franklin@bluewiremedia.com.au and it's at Franklin_Adam on Twitter. If you enjoyed the show, and we hope you did, we would really love it if you headed over to iTunes and left us a rating and an honest review. We will give a shout out to the listeners who give us a 5-star review, and we'll link to people that leave us a rating. Shoot us an email to let us know what your blog or website is, and we'll link to you from one of our shows. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks very much, everyone.